Hello, hello builders! This is The Engine and I'm your host, Sasha Berry. The Engine is a show about building in Web3 and with Web3. So whether you're already building in the space or you're just trying to figure out what this whole Web3 thing is about, you are in the right place. Stick around. The Engine is powered by Skylab, a community of Web3 builders, founders, and investors. We often describe it as AA for founders, except for we're not trying to quit being founders, investors, and builders in the space. Quite the opposite. We're trying to stick with it, and it's always better with a friend. So if you are looking for a good community of builders to share your ideas, to share your support, to get supported, to get feedback on your ideas, consider joining Skylab. The membership is free, but it's invitation only. So go to skylab.xyz, fill out the form, and someone will reach out to you. The link is in the description. This week, we decided to talk about the current state of the industry in crypto, which is a very difficult thing to talk about because it's an elusive thing. Between the moment when this podcast was recorded, the moment that I am recording this intro today, and the moment when the show will go on out to the public tomorrow, things just change all the time. So between the recording and today, halving happened, and then today this whole Eigenlayer thing happened, and we're even not clear what's happening. We're still processing all of this as an industry, right? So the conversation that we recorded was more of a bird's eye view on the industry in the context of, okay, we're 4 months into this year. Let's see what we were thinking about when we were just getting into this year and where are we today. And my guests are Angelo Alessio, who is one of the founders of Build Cities, a global cooperative of startup cities. Angelo self-identifies as a closeted Bitcoin maxi, which he's not exactly closeted about it, and he's not exactly a maxi either, because he's quite open to other blockchains and other crypto technologies, but he sure loves his Bitcoin. My other guest is Gerard, also known as Geebz. He is a principal at a Web3 venture fund. Gerard is semi-anonymous, so we'll keep it at that, but just trust me that Gerard has been around the crypto block. He is a member of multiple Tribute Labs DAOs. He was early to NFTs. Let's say he claimed his punks. And in his spare time, he likes to tinker with on-chain things. So he's a great person to talk shop with. So we started up with Bitcoin, the halving, the ETFs. We went on to talk about Ethereum, the staking, the restaking, and then of course we touched on Memecoins. We didn't cover some of the more recent events for obvious reasons, but it's a great snapshot of where we're at as an industry. And we'll get right into this, but first a quick word about the contributors of the first season of The Engine, Threshold Network and Build Cities. Threshold Network provides a suite of threshold cryptography services. So if you're building an application that involves private data and trusting an intermediary won't fly, you may want to check out Taco, which is the only encryption and access control plugin that is end-to-end decentralized. So what is Taco for? Builders are using it in various applications such as seed phrase recovery, crypto inheritance, media libraries management, and even concealing in-game assets. And these are just some of the use cases. You can use Taco to build a decentralized password manager or location sharing plugin, or even a live streaming platform, or any other dApp that involves private data. So go to threshold.network, check out Taco documentation, and see how you can easily integrate that plugin into your dApp. Build Cities is a global cooperative of startup cities. The world is changing rapidly. Resources and expertise that are so needed to create businesses and innovation used to be locked into certain ecosystems for centuries. But now, these resources are flowing freely around the world, empowering local communities. Passports and visas may still limit our ability to travel, but we can teleport anywhere over Zoom and collaborate with our partners all over the world. Build Cities is creating a digital infrastructure that empowers this collaboration and innovation and connects builders from all over the world. Check out their website and see how in this new world, Lagos is not far from Los Angeles and London, and Nassau is right next to Phuket and Paris. You can join the community right now with your Discord login. You can also mint a Dream, which is a collaborative AI NFT that serves as a pass to the entire Build Cities ecosystem, including all of their IRL events throughout the year around the country. The link is in the description. Okay, now let's dive into my conversation with Angelo and Gerard. Hi, Angelo. Hi, Gerard. Welcome to the engine.
Thanks, Sasha. Glad to be here. Always a pleasure.
Hey, Sasha, as well. Pleasure being here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, as always, we are tackling a gigantic topic. We are going to be talking about trends in the current cycle. Last week we talked about, a couple weeks ago, we talked about cyclical nature of crypto. We are well into this cycle now, and it's now that we're, almost 3 full months, 1 quarter into this year, it's kind of an interesting moment to check in with the trends that people were talking about at the end of last year and see how they're starting to play out in the context. So a lot to cover, but before we jump in, Gerard, the usual question, what brought you into crypto? How did you end up with all of us degens?
Yeah, I had an interesting journey into the crypto world. So, I started my career off in accounting, moved into information system auditing, and one of my bosses at the time, I can remember, I lived in DC. We were talking over dim sum, and he started talking to me about this Bitcoin thing. That's what he called it. And he said, it's going to be the future. It's the next big thing. I had no idea what he was talking about. So I ended up buying, Don Tapscott's book at the time called The Blockchain Revolution. I think it was one of the books that, one of the first real books on blockchain technology, explained a lot of different use cases. And, like that first time reading it, I think I quickly understood, the disruption of this technology, the industries that it could easily go ahead and blow up. And just quickly understanding, hey, this is a decentralized ledger that's open to everybody. The world's our possibilities. So, then around 2017, 2018,
so as an accountant, the word ledger felt comfortable to you.
Clicked instantly. Instant click. Yeah. It was an easy one from there. And then, I had a little bit of a trading background, and so started doing some trades. And back then, everyone was trading like the Neos, the Litecoins. Ethereum was really popular. There was a handful of different tokens. And the whole ICO boom happened. I think everyone remembers the DAO. And around this time, I got really interested in NFTs, actually. So I started trading. Yeah. And so I reached out to some folks like Joe Looney and Artnome, who were part of the Rare Pepe team. And I was doing data and analytics work and was just asking them for data on these specific collections, and started building out some dashboards for them, chatting with them about Rare Pepes. And then shortly after that, I had learned about CryptoPunks, and I went ahead and I remember trying to spin up a My Ether wallet node to go ahead and claim some. And I'd never done anything on chain. And if you've never done anything on chain and your first interaction is spinning up a node to do it, it's so confusing. It's like one of the hardest things you've ever done in your life. And the worst part is, oh my gosh, I'm with family in Florida and we're going to Disneyland, and I'm trying to spin up a node and claim these things, and I have just no idea at all, what I'm doing.
Well, clearly you did.
It worked out in the end. I ended up negotiating and bartering on Twitter for some too. And then while at Accenture, I worked there for a while. They were spinning up a blockchain practice and just got some more exposure to the institutional side of things. So they were working with the R3 consortium, and back then it was all distributed ledger technology, DLT. You use IBM Hyperledger and other technology like that to build out these consortium-based models. And then, that was some of my first experiences getting into the space, was seeing it on the sort of institutional side, and then also just experimenting really with more centralized exchanges trading. And then punks were my first on-chain experience. So
Fascinating.
that was my intro.
It's crazy how this stuff gets you in. But like, I want to ask, like, in that moment when you started playing with this technology, was that more of kind of hobbyist, oh, this is fun, this is cool kind of thing, or was it, this is the future, I want to be layer zero in this, I want to be among the early ones, I can see it changing the
Yeah.
world?
It was a little bit of both, right? The trading side of it was like, oh my gosh, I could, make a bunch of money on these speculative tokens, which I think still kind of carries true to today with a lot of folks with trading.
Oh, hell yeah.
But there was a part of me that was also like, there's really interesting technology here that also can be used. And then on the NFT side, especially with punks, that vision was incredibly clear to me day one. So I come from an artistic family, have a bit of an art background. And the second I collect a few pieces of art, and the second I had seen that, it just clicked. And I was like, these are going to be so important. I remember turning to one of my cousins and just saying that, like, you don't understand. Disney can wait. I need to have these right now.
Wow. Disney can wait. That's the line. That's awesome. Love this. Angelo, you have told us about your background a few times, and your path right into the space. But I want to ask, what in your background, like before the immediate moment of transitioning into crypto industry, like growing up, do you feel that there were some things that kind of set you up to have this affinity for decentralization, for Bitcoin, for network state in your experience growing up?
That's a really good question. So backing into like the series of aha moments that I've had like on the, continuously developing conviction of crypto and its future and what it means for finance and everything. Yeah, that's so prereqs to that, to understand it. I was in the generation where I think there's people who've even had the name for it, where it's like you're like, I was born in '87, so like you're half in the, like, I remember the Nokia phones. Like I think I was just a freshman in high school at the time, so like smartphones were then just coming out like 4 or 5 years later. And so whatever that term is for that generation, it's like half foot in the, fully digitally native and not, I guess, or
Well,
analog or whatever you
we
want to call it.
remember the world
Uh,
before the internet, or we,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but I think at the same time, like as what was it, AOL was the first one. Like I had used the internet a lot, and I think that kind of naturally brought me into the tech sector. And always kind of had like a engineering kind of mindset. So it just kind of on that note. But I guess probably. I think interest forums, I wouldn't say I was like heavily involved. I wasn't a gamer or anything, but I was really into like motorsports and yeah, motorsports really kind of. And so I think I spent a lot of times, and this is only just kind of coming up like as you asked the question,
yeah.
and looking back to spending time on there and like seeing what people were building or their racing experience or whatnot, like you know yeah, like those were people talking around the world, that I was connected with. I think there's even like a actually, yeah, there was a like a motorcycle forum that I had gotten really involved in, and then we actually did coordinate a ride, like a group ride. And so this is even before 2008. This is before Bitcoin, and so that premise, I think, is very much kind of baked into what we're doing with Build and online to offline communities and a lot of the network state topics. So I guess, yeah, as I'm reflecting back, like I was kind of doing that thing a little bit, but then at the same time, like probably the most universal aspect of like online to offline relationships were dating apps. So a lot of people use those. Like this was these a lot of these prerequisites were happening for a while,
I'm
but I think that
surprised there is
pertains.
no good crypto dating app yet. Like I don't get it.
Yeah,
I mean, the
maybe.
only explanation I see to that is that there's not enough women in the space, so
Yeah,
there's not it wouldn't quite
I'd
work.
be pretty bearish. I would do a leverage short against a crypto dating app. Yeah, for sure.
I've
Maybe
actually
if you
seen
made it.
one interesting one so far. I think it's called Love on Chain,
Oh,
and
Okay.
really?
it's like speed dating. It's actually kind of bizarre, but it was interesting. And how it works is there's like a moderator like this, and then there's one singular person. So I've only seen one episode, and there's this girl, and basically, suitors would come on, and they would try and strike up conversations digitally like this, and at the same time, there's a token that's trading, and so there's bands, and so the token trades in the middle, and you can buy and sell it right in the window, and it's kind of expensive. Like it's like $100, two hundred
Isn't
bucks to
that
buy and sell it.
is that in Unlonely? Isn't that in the Unlonely app? The one
Is that
it's
what it's
yeah, I think
called?
I well, it's in the app that does the video. It's a he's kind of a he's a great founder that has a lot of good tweets and whatnot. But I
Yeah.
think it's
I think
in
it's
the
the same
Unlonely app.
exact guy.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I
yeah,
watched,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it was so like heartbreaking to watch it because you would just see, like, you can feel the energy and just watch the price properly like go with the energy.
Oh my God, I love this. This is so interesting.
This show can just be about like how can you make this work for dating apps, but like what if you had an NFT like a what was there, the World of Men and World of Women NFT, or like somewhere where you both opted in, and you had to have some attributes or attestations so that you could kind of like do some matching algorithm, and then you make it like a digital, you combine aspects of crypto the game, and remember that Netflix show Love Is Blind,
So you match
like
the
figure out a
PFPs.
way. Yes, exactly, and then they can go connect, and then attest later whether something worked or not. I don't know, there's probably a way,
I'm
but
sure there
maybe
is
we're just a
something
long
to
ways
it.
away.
Yeah, no, I'm way into it, and I'm sure we're gonna get to talking about meme coins, but sorting out that signal, I think there's something to it, and I think we're getting close to something really interesting there. Okay, well, we're gonna get there, but we do have to start with the king, as we're talking about trends. So let's start with Bitcoin and the state of Bitcoin. Gerard, how do you think about Bitcoin this year?
Yeah, I think for starters, the ETF is just such a massive paradigm shift when it comes down to the financialization and accessibility of Bitcoin to not just people who are interested in this, niche technology, but to the greater world when considering an alternative store of value to compare against gold. You're starting to see some more products sprout up. And it's been interesting to watch the flows. I try and check them daily. You're seeing sort of that flow out of GBTC, flow into IBIT, the Fidelities, and other products in the world. CoinGlass is sort of a great product to go and see these flows on a daily basis. And I think it's, the money talks. I think it's been really clear that this has been one of the most successful ETFs of all time. It's really clear that there's a high level of demand for this product. And you're starting to see financial advisors start to recommend this as, something that you want to have an allocation toward. So I think that speaks leaps and bounds for, like you said, for the king of crypto here.
Angela, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a I say I'm a closet Bitcoin maxi, but then when people like when I say that, be like, no, you're not. You're pretty out in the open about it. So I think like my journey into crypto, like I came in through Litecoin, and then I was like, oh, I think I like made a decent amount in the week, and then I was like, and then I really went down the crypto rabbit hole, and then like the last bull bear cycle, it was just kind of really spread thin across a bunch of different things, just trying to learn as quickly as I can, and this time around, I've very much consolidated back to like less than five positions, Bitcoin being, the dominant one there. And then recently moved to Houston and go to the Houston Bitcoin meetup, and which is apparently like one of the bigger ones in anywhere. And it's just like such a different culture that like I'm now learning about the energy industry, just in talking with these miners and whatnot. But personal kind of bias aside, it's the king for a reason, and I think it will always kind of stay that way. And I think it should stay that way. And it's yeah, I mean, I can never get that chart out of my head where it's like on a risk adjusted basis, like it still has been the outperforming asset for the last. I think there's 1 year where it was anomalous, where it was not,
Yeah.
but still on that long term time horizon, um, you can't deny it. And then when you have BlackRock like now going all in, and it's really hard to deny. So yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how to answer that question better. That's just Bitcoin is king, and that's it.
Well, I'm curious.
Mic drop.
Mic drop, yeah. Well, Bitcoin is changing though. There's a lot going on with it, aside from it being the king of financial assets and attracting a lot of institutional interest and all that good stuff. But Bitcoin is changing. There's building now on Bitcoin, and I'm curious, Angela, like that Houston meetup. Which way does it lean? I always say how like crypto is a religion in itself, and then there's confessions in it.
Yeah,
There's the Ethereum, there's
yeah,
Bitcoin, there's like others, and then within those there are also different sort of sects. And then there is the
yeah.
Bitcoin purists, maximalists, and then there's the Bitcoin builders now. And
Sure.
what's the vibe between those two groups in Houston?
I don't want to speak for Bitcoin at large, but I think the biggest thing for L2s, just like I guess, what do you call it? The Bitcoin coattail ecosystem is like, if a project is not culturally accepted by like the OG kind of core contributors, like that community, like that is honestly, I think, the most important part, right? Like Lightning, I would say, is the only one that's been kind of like, what's that meme where like the hugging balloon, like
Yeah.
brings the guy. It's like, we accept you, like, right? Like you literally, I think that anointment is so important. And so even in that Houston Bitcoin meetup, like they do not talk about, like somebody brought up an Ethereum thing once, is like, we don't, like immediately it's like, we don't talk about that here. Lightning is the only other thing I've heard them talk about openly, and like but then a lot of the topics honestly are, because Bitcoin is table stakes, like they get into economics, the politics of Bitcoin with like else, which it is, right? Like it's because it's a table stakes currency and the largest market cap, like the conversations delve more into like, hey, how will this play out for El Salvador as like a sovereign country, a sovereign currency? How is this? How are miners going to be treated from a regulatory standpoint? So it's just very table stakes, and I have never at any meetup heard anything outside of Bitcoin and Lightning being discussed. Even though there's so much going on, like that people are kind of putting the name on and doing stuff. Absolutely. Ordinals is a big one. So Ordinals has come up. I will take it back. Ordinals has come up because the miners like it, because they get more mining fees from the Ordinal transactions. And so they're,
I would think so.
Actually, yeah, it's a little mix. They're kind of like, this is weird. They're doing JPEGs, but we're getting paid. So it's not like oh, we love Ordinals. It's like, this is cool. All right, we're getting paid, but that's the extent of
we'll
it.
take that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Gerard, how do you feel about building on Bitcoin?
I've personally dabbled with some ordinals. I picked up like a Node Monkey or Node Monk.
Nice.
I'm not entirely sure the proper pronunciation there. Had some R6. I think it's clear that there's demand for it. On the venture side, I think it's been one of the hottest discussions that we've seen. Going back to ETH Denver, it was one of the hottest topics. I think Bitcoin and ordinals were almost more popular than the Ethereum related NFTs.
Yep.
And so just like layer twos in general, I think are incredibly interesting to people right now. And I'm hearing more and more stuff around sort of Bitcoin DeFi, Bitcoin infrastructure being built out. It's something I'm paying attention to. It's definitely not something I've fully dove into at this point. Because interestingly, I've been diving into that, and then sort of the counterparty like Doge ecosystem where they're building this same stuff. So like they're building out Doginals, DRC20s, Dunes, and there's this almost the same infrastructure being built on Bitcoin you're seeing in the Doge ecosystem. So I've been kind of watching both in parallel worlds, because I think that they're similar, but from a tech standpoint, but they're very, very, very different.
Elon's privately funding it, all the
Yeah,
all the
exactly.
Doge dominance.
Exactly. The
Wow.
narrative I keep hearing with this is just like the unlock. So there's this massive amount of wealth, and folks are anticipating a large unlock of that because now you have utility behind all of this. It's no longer just this asset that you're holding that appreciates over time due to issues with sort of centralized fiat currency. And Angelo, I'm curious, when you go to these meetups, it sounds like the appetite is lukewarm maybe toward this because it's maybe anti-Bitcoin thesis to have utility around it. Almost no utility to me seems more bullish than more utility.
That like purist vibe is very much there. And again, they don't. I mean, Houston's just such an energy centric city, so it's like they have literally an incentive to block out any noise about anything that's not proof of work related to Bitcoin, right? So it's like because that's where the flow of funds is rotating into. And honestly, a lot of the folks who are doing either have the energy places, like they don't know much about Bitcoin. They just like know that it makes money, but they don't know the underlying mechanics of it. So that's interesting. And yeah, I think there's that hesitation quite a bit. And so I'm very kind of I would like to have smart contract capability on Bitcoin. Like we would like to build primarily kind of position it that way. I think so. I'm also like looking very closely at different players, different ecosystems that can provide that capability in one that I think will also be culturally accepted in due time.
I do want to move on from Bitcoin because we have limited time to cover a lot of territory. So let's touch on Ethereum. A big update happened. Restaking is happening. A lot of new L2s. So Gerard, what's your take on the state of Ethereum?
Ethereum's been interesting. I think it's larger than itself at this point for a number of reasons, right? We're sitting here talking about infrastructure on Bitcoin, and we're well past the infrastructure point on Ethereum, right? When ICOs first came around, I think there was just a lot of mystery. We weren't entirely sure what smart contracts could do, what they could enable, what they can't enable. Now I think we've pushed the limits at this point, and we're starting to understand the true capabilities and maybe some of the limits that this technology can have. So now when you think about it, I think you have to ask something deeper. You have to ask, okay, within Ethereum, how is each sector doing? And then you start to break that down. You have NFTs, you have DeFi. I think you can consider like oracles in that bucket as well. There's other emerging classes here. I think L2s potentially is its own class within itself that then has its own subsector within it also. So going class by class, some are doing great, and I think some are not doing great. For example, Ethereum NFTs, they're struggling right now. I think we're still seeing an okay amount of volume, but when you look at some of those really quote unquote blue chip collections, a lot of them have eroded in value. You were talking about Bored Apes earlier. I'm not sure what they're at, but last time I checked, they're around 15 ETH. I mean, they were well over 100 at one point.
Yep.
Art blocks, for example, you look at Chromie Squiggles, they're around 5 Ether each. And they, that's kind of at least my guide and sentiment on how generative art's doing within there. So, I think you have to go sector by sector and ask yourself, well, how are certain things doing? I think RWAs have become a hot narrative. I think people are interested in those. You have stuff like Athena popping up that people are gaining interest in, that are almost like small micro strategies that are running to be able to sort of compound on stables or compound on ETH. And then there's the whole sector that maybe we'll get to at some point around liquid staking, liquid restaking, and then the money Legos that are being built on top of that. And then the age-old question, of whether or not staking and restaking and those derivative products inherently add leverage into the ecosystem. And I personally think the answer is no, but it's like the humans that build the derivative products and the financial Legos on top of it do enable and bring leverage into the ecosystem.
I'm really curious about that staking and restaking part of it, because I feel like if we talk about Ethereum as the ecosystem in terms of ecosystem impact that touches kind of on the whole foundation of it, that part, staking and restaking, is changing Ethereum more than any given, application, DeFi, NFTs, or whatnot. Can we double click on that a little bit? And can you just set it up? And what's the importance of staking and restaking?
Yeah, of course. So, with the introduction of going from proof of work to proof of stake, the Ethereum network created a sort of a native yield that comes into play here. I think it's between like 3 and 5% at the moment. And so with that, when you have a node, you effectively are staking and receiving a yield back on that. And so people have created products where you have liquid staking. So let's differentiate the two. There's liquid staking and then there's liquid restaking. So your liquid staking seems to be at this point kind of a winner takes all in Lido. And then there's other competitors that are more decentralized, stuff like Rocket Pool that's out there. And basically what that's doing is you're saying, I give you Ether, and in exchange, I get a derivative token. So stETH is the derivative token of that. And what they're doing is then spinning up nodes and receiving yield and paying that yield out to the users that hold those tokens.
And so what's the significance of having one large player there on the staking side? Like, how do you feel about that? Does that pose
I don't know that I feel anything about that.
Is that an existential threat to Ethereum?
Maybe. I don't have a strong perspective, to be honest.
Gerard, can you talk about the significance of restaking now?
Yeah, and I'll talk about like LRT. So LST, liquid staking, LRT, liquid restaking. So like I said before, the LST market is basically dominated by Lido. I think if I look at it right now, they take up it's really a lion's share of the entire bit. Liquid restaking, you're starting to see this emergent class, and there's a few folks that are coming into this space. So EtherFi is the largest one there. Full disclosure, I'm an investor in EtherFi, but then there's also Puffer, there's Renzo, and other ones. And so what they do is in LSTs, you give them ETH, and then they stake it, and then they give you staking yield. In LRTs, I give them ETH, they stake that ETH, and then they restake it with Eigenlayer. So they're getting the Eigenlayer yield as well. And then on top of it, then you're gaining points, which accumulate tokens for those specific platforms. So it's effectively triple the yield. And now they've created this derivative product. So in EtherFi's example, it's EETH. And then they have an entire DeFi section on their website that you can use this as collateral for different types of trades to go out there. Because effectively, one EETH or one stETH, it's one ETH at the end of the day.
Yeah.
How sustainable is that model though? Like, I just can't help but just think of like, that's just, you said triple the yield. It's like, well, that's triple the ways of implosion in my mind. Like,
I think that's one way to think about it for sure. And there's risk, right? There's risk involved with all these assets. We all know that. We all like to play with fire, maybe a little bit. It sounds like Angelo is playing with some fire this cycle. But it's for experimentation. We're learning. This is how we learn. And so I think there is some risk involved. There's protocol risk as with anything. There is risk. So let's talk about the underlying protocol and then what you can do with it. So the underlying protocols, of course, there's risk. But at the end of the day, like I said, one stETH, one EETH, there's effectively a redemption window which you can say, hey, I have one of these, I want to exchange it. They have to, wind down nodes, and then they'll provide you back with your Ether and your yield that you've received over that period of time. Now, Angelo, the problem I think really becomes when you start to take these products and put them into DeFi, and now they're recognized forms of collateral. And as you know, you spin up these different pools where there are these different assets, and you potentially could have depegging events, which we've seen happen. You look at USDC last year, for example.
We will never forget that weekend.
It was insane, right? And I had a great trade that weekend. I was actually sitting prepared for it, and I bought up a bunch.
Sweet.
As people were dumping it, I looked at it and just said, "This is USDC. Like, this is, in my eyes, one of the safest assets that I could, put money into." And obviously that's not financial advice, but in my head, I was like, this has to be a decent trade. And
right. Well, everything
I'm
is relative.
For that moment this cycle.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
you
exactly,
think somebody will
exactly.
depeg again? No.
I think that there's a chance that you can see some of these, these staking products potentially depeg in a mass liquidation type event. And because of that, right, there's going to be a redemption window at the end of the day for a number of these products with the underlying protocol where you can go and redeem it. But the liquidity pools that exist for these assets, I think you potentially could see depeg at some point.
Wow.
I don't know if I put a high probability, but there's a chance.
That would completely shatter the confidence narrative about like, hey, last cycle it was DeFi versus CeFi. We saw everything that happened with BlockFi, and obviously, major, that's one of many actors that obviously imploded that. And so the argument became like, hey, only this wouldn't happen in DeFi. But if you do have one of those depegging events, that would completely shoot that narrative entirely.
Well, kind of, right? So the interesting thing here would be the actual the underlying asset didn't lose any value. It's, to your point, it's the short-term trust in it eroded, and people, I think, in this space are quick to have the finger on the trigger and are impatient and get really spooked. So I think if you're savvy enough to say, I'm gonna, at that point in time when investors are spooked and scared and basically trying to drain one side of liquidity pools because they don't understand the assets they're investing into, I think that creates an opportunity for people on the other side who are like, I'm waiting to buy these assets at a 10, 15% discount because I know that there's always going to be a redemption window for me to be able to go get these assets. Obviously, I think it's situation dependent, right? If there's like a major hack or an exploit, something like that, I think you might be right, Angelo. Like there could be some actual erosion of trust in the space, as opposed to a short term. I just don't understand how these things work. I'm panicking. I need to sell.
Yeah. Well, there is a correction, and then there is obliteration. Moving on, probably the biggest current trend are the meme coins. It's a gigantic topic, and I think as much as many might FUD it and say, oh, it's just, it's a pre-halving warm up on Solana, it's going to go. I personally feel now that meme coins are going to be somehow really important for this cycle. And they're going to be capturing the attention and helping us understand where the wind is blowing. So, Gerard, what's your feel on meme coins?
Lightning in a bottle, people like them. You go look any day and there's new ones, right? I think it's really put Solana on the map, the capabilities of Solana from a tech standpoint, from a speed and efficiency standpoint, a low transaction cost standpoint. And so we've onboarded this whole new generation of users, right? Like we're all part of a different class of crypto users. We came in X year or X cycle. The users this cycle came in, and they came into the cheapest casino, the fastest casino that's ever existed, right? Like the folks that came in last cycle and were trading tokens and NFTs on ETH, if you go check, what is it? It's like gas.wtf or something, and you see the depressing amount of gas that you spent on the Ethereum network associated to the cost. It's painful. It's like the most painful thing in the world.
It is.
So
it's thousands of dollars.
It's crazy. Yeah. So it's been kind of interesting to watch it. You're seeing, I'm seeing a lot of different takes on the whole spectrum. Everything from, Dogcoin good to, this is the biggest social paradigm we've ever had, and this allows for the highest level of human coordination around singular ideas and moments and thoughts. And this is going to replace all prediction markets and casinos in the world as the formidable way that we choose to align behind our beliefs. And look, I think it's maybe somewhere in the middle, but like it's just been fun to watch, and I'm happy for everyone that this has changed their lives in some way financially, and I just hope that it is high stakes gambling at the end of the day. I'll say that. You see these tokens, people are investing in a collective belief, and I think that collective beliefs can deteriorate very quickly, and you really need to ensure that you know what you're doing when the music stops or when the music's slowing down. And that if you have the opportunity to really be able to change your life significantly, you should stop and maybe consider what's more important to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the big learnings for me personally and many people in the previous cycle. And I'm sure there will be more people coming into the space this cycle that will have to keep reminding ourselves and everybody that you have to pause and do a reality check every now and then. When you're in the casino, it's really easy to get carried away. Angelo, what's your feeling on the meme coins?
I mean, I'm kind of, I mean, if people are making money, cool. Like if it's literally fun for people, cool. I'm kind of bearish on the whole thing. I think it's for the same reasons was bearish on BitClout and Friend Tech, which I think are kind of fairly similar items, where it's like the delta between somebody's expectation and reality of an experience is going to determine, I think, their retention in a way. And so, when you see somebody's BitClout or Friend Tech, oh, they're making money, it's like, okay, cool. And then they'll get in. They might make money too, but as soon as they don't, as soon as it like kind of levels out, like I can't help but think that those, like, they're all going to just kind of go up and then down, right? Like I don't understand, and maybe I'm missing something, but I don't understand how they will. And again, short termism is fine. Like that kind of like
Yeah.
punches through different narrative walls. Like, I saw the term narrative engineering the other day. I was like, oh wow, I get it. Used to be called storytelling. Even storytelling is like a new concept for startups, I feel like.
Narrative engineering. Yes.
Yeah. So look, I mean, I think it's a tactic for getting whatever distribution message you're trying to get across, or straight up just make money and be a casino.
I guess the question is, who manages to create a sustainable meme? I heard yesterday somebody, I don't remember who, was saying how, Bitcoin essentially is the first meme coin, and it created its own meme, its own culture, and managed to maintain it. And now we have Doge, who that also managed to create its own ethos, and now it has people building on it. So sustaining the narrative, sustaining the meme is where the question is, like, do people even look to do that?
So
not really.
On that note, I evaluate projects quite significantly on what I'll just call like origin capital or myth capital, right? Like, okay, what was the backstory before Bitcoin? What was the backstory for Bitcoin as a meme, right? Well, it's like a whole shit ton of work, right? So the substance that the meme launches off of, I think, really matters. I don't know enough about the backstory of Doge. I think that one maybe was a little more kind of like accidental and fun, and maybe people just love dogs. Like that's quite true. What, dogs are the new kids, pets are the new, or plants are the new pets, kind of thing. So
oh God, look at me.
With
my pets.
So that's a great point. Like what is the lasting, what are the ones that do kind of transcend transcend,
The
any kind
casino.
of market cycle or yeah, transcend the casino, right?
I guess we'll see which ones survive from the previous cycle and which ones come out of this. I mean, I feel like Pepe is one of the things that is always with us in so many shapes and forms. So that meme is definitely strong, and Doge now too, and we'll see what comes out of this one. Well,
Yeah.
we are
There's
at
so
the
many. I just want to touch on that for just one. Can I touch on that just for 1 second?
yeah,
I
yes,
want to go into
please.
just like some thoughts there. So like this cycle, I've dabbled with meme coins a little bit this cycle, and I do think there's something here. So we just talked about narratives, right? Like there's always been the killer narrative. So Bitcoin came out, there was Bitcoin killers. Angelo mentioned he was like a Litecoin trader, right? That was a Bitcoin killer, Bitcoin Cash. Ethereum came out, and then you start to see as they gain power, there's the killers that come forward. So remember, like the EOSs, the Cardanos, like all these different chains that were going to be the Ethereum killers.
Yep.
Then you see Solana emerge, and now this year you're going to see. I personally think the Solana killer narrative. So people are going to be chasing against it. I think it'll be in the flavor of like parallelized EVM stuff like say
Sui, Aptos.
Monad, your Sui's. I think Canto I saw was even doing a parallelized EVM, and everyone's going to chase them, right? We have high throughput, we have cheap whatnot, and then you have now your meme killers, right? So people are coming after Doge. You had Doge, you had Shib. I'm seeing like layer 3 Shiba projects, people building on Doge, and now you're right. You have like this competition where it's like you have Whiff and Pepe, I think, kind of leading the pack right now. On different chains, you had Bonk for a little bit, but Bonk, I think, has been superseded by Whiff. I saw Whiff yesterday past, it has a higher TVL than Optimism, like a legit backed layer 2. And so
What?
there's certainly something here, and the animal spirits and the energy in crypto is going to take it into its own place. And really, it's not until after the cycle that you can look behind and be like, that's the
Yeah.
winner. That's the one that
Yeah.
took it.
Just find the big fish and see how much you could just kind of keep going at them as the narrative. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, because everyone wants to be early. Everyone wants to be early at the end of the
A
day. Like,
100%. And there's so many venture funds that then, they miss Solana. So now there's all these
yeah,
folks raising capital right now. And when they have to go deploy, they're going to go, I just don't have the beta I need with Solana. Where can I go get that? And they're going to say, these newer ecosystems that are sprouting up, and there's no shortage of venture dollars for stuff like that.
Good to know. And that's also a sign of spring going into summer when there's no lack of venture dollars. That's good for us. I love it. We are wrapping up. It was so fun. We touched probably on 1/3 of the topics that we had lined up for today. We will have to continue in following episodes touching on all the different trends that are unfolding. But as we're wrapping up, just one final piece of wisdom or shill that you want to share with us, Gerard.
Don't lose your shirt. That's it. You know, uh, it's all about just managing your risk, managing your tolerance, um, and also have fun. Like go out and experiment with stuff. I think we're in this really golden age of on-chain things you can go experiment with, and so just go learn as much as you can. Go experiment. Go try out new stuff. Go into these niche blockchains and try and buy weird products or weird tokens and stuff. Just understand how it all works. I think that's my only piece of advice.
Learning.
Lessons in there, yeah.
Angelo.
mine would just, I guess, it'd be like conviction doesn't come overnight, and so just you know find something that you feel good about, develop, not feel good, but like objectively can develop conviction around for whatever reason, and don't be afraid to kind of keep developing it, and if that translates into investing in it, then that's my thing I try to do. And then also, if you want to chat about any of these topics, the network states are the umbrella, and buildcities.network is where we talk a lot about all these topics. So and not just crypto, kind of fusion of several different tech disciplines and world affairs and all that stuff.
Awesome. Well, this was an amazing conversation, guys. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you. And I hope to have you back again.
Thank you both. This was awesome. Angelo, it's nice to meet you. Sasha, always a pleasure.
Likewise, Gerard. Yeah.
Awesome.
Take it easy.
Cheers.
Bye now.
That was a fun chat. For more of these, follow the engine everywhere. On YouTube, in your favorite podcatcher, on Twitter, on Farcaster, on LinkedIn. Don't just follow, leave a comment. Let us know what you think about where we're at. What's up with Eigenlayer? What's up with staking and restaking? How you feel about it? Are you participating? Check out Skylab's website, apply to join. Check out threshold.network and see if Taco is a good option for your privacy needs in your dApp. Check out Build Cities, mint your dream NFT, and connect with your future partners from all over the world. All the links are in the description, and that's our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. Struggle well, fellow builder. You can do it. Cheers.